Although we may be consciously making decisions and forming opinions, it has been documented by various philosophers that these opinions are influenced by various means. The media is an influence which would manipulate our needs and desires. We are constantly bombarded by the advertising of products that it begins to change our opinions on what we actually need. Our opinions form our societies and laws, and thus ends up changing our whole culture. It is clear that mankind created the media. If the media influence our societies and cultures, it makes me ask the question, what influences mankind to what he or she creates in the media? In psychoanalysis, the conscious decisions we develop an ego, which we show as our public face in society. This ego is what people would mostly see as ourselves. Sigmund Freud's theory was that we had a hidden self, developed in our subconscious. This is where we would hold our inner desires, drive, and fears. The subconscious mind is influenced by the id and your superego. The superego can be seen as the authority figure in your mind. Some see it as God's voice or the angel on your shoulder. I see it as a manipulated influence by current culture and laws and what we see as acceptable. However, if we're not influenced by God, are we influenced by, if anything, apart from fellow man? I believe that the answer lies in the id. It is the id which is said to be our basic instinct. This instinct or drive, I believe, have positive and negative effects. It can be seen as a need for selfish pleasure, a primitive need to kill and to mate. However, is this need not just to help us to survive? We need to eat, so we need to kill. We need to show our love, so we need to mate. It's these two positive and negative sides of the id which I believe help support a theory on what influences our natural instinct. I came up with a theory to explain my understanding of how we can be further influenced by things other than man. This theory I named Pol Theory, as the word itself, Pol, can be used as a diagram to explain these influences. Pol Theory states that the theory of natural balance relies on the repeating reaction between positive and negative energy that is produced from one source. The sun, or the source, produces positive and negative energy. For example, it can bring love from pleasure with its warmth, but can also burn and bring pain if abused. The positive and negative energy which are felt by the sun will either influence us to do good or bad. These decisions can affect our relationships, work, and also influence others. This analogy is the source of where our influences first come from. It is very common to feel happier in the warmth of the sun. This is because when we feel comfort, we release a natural chemical called serotonin. When we are happier, we are nicer. Therefore, when the sun helps release serotonin, it further influences us to do good. If we are burned from abuse of the sun or do not experience enough sun, we end up suffering pain or depression, thus releasing a negative energy such as anger. This analogy of the rays given off by the sun demonstrates that part of us is acting through the influence of the sun. This influence, which can lead our decisions that would then contribute to a person's day-to-day personality. This personality would be present in the current society, which in turn would influence the popular culture. Due to these conflicting emotional influences of happy and sad, it is impossible to stay 100% good or bad. The constant absorption and release of these positive and negative energies creates this constant battle against one another. The ongoing reaction can be seen in patterns which form in life. The two energies, positive and negative, which the sun produces, creates a circle of movement between the two energies. Due to their contrasting influences and power, they collide and form a circle of movement. It's this circle of movement which can also be understood as the circle of life. The circle of life is controlled by the sun due to it providing life and death. Life provides death. We will all die eventually. Our deaths will then provide life with our decomposition of our bodies. They act as a nutrient for plants or bugs, which will then feed other life forms. This repetition through life forms a circle, or the O, in the Pol Theory. The circular pattern of movement can also be applied to many things in life. You can witness it in history as it repeats itself, in politics, global renewal, and global destruction. The circular pattern O found in the Pol is a reaction between the negative and positive energy provided. It is best illustrated with the Yin Yang. It shows the two energies balancing with a spiral between them. This spiral reaction can be witnessed in many things in nature, such as in the wind, fire, water, and earth. The spiral which occurs from these 5 elements is the positive and negative energies produced from the source, colliding with one another. As explained, the Pol Theory can influence us from 2 opposite energies produced by one source. It can also be applied to the balance in nature, as mentioned. It can also help to explain the balance in people and in the theories of natural balance found in karma. In the history of mankind, there have always been people which act more good and others which act more bad. When Pol Theory is applied to people, it can provide a person with a more balanced personality. Furthermore, it can help to explain why some people are more bad or good than others. The best example of how to explain each pure form of good and bad is shown through teachings of religion. In religion, there is a positive and negative energy in the form of the opposed god or demon. Normally, one will follow a god and reject the opposed demon. In Pol Theory, both of these negative and positive powers come from one source. The reaction between each energy is the O, or the circle of life. Both energies, good and evil, are both creating ways of life, but also provided by one main energy. In other words, good and evil work together under one energy source. The balance between both energies, or the O, in the Pol Theory is the effect of each. If you respect the power equally of each energy for what they provide, you will become balanced. You love the God you fear, as once stated. If you fear both, you can become balanced. In other words, love both energies equally and one can become balanced. If you're influenced by one of the energies more than the other, you'll become more affected by that energy. Hence, why we have varieties of good and bad people. In the theory of karma, it is said, if you are good, you will receive nice things through life. It also works that if you are bad, you will receive bad events. It would not seem that life is balanced or fair if you always did good but received misfortune. In Pol Theory, this is due to life constantly trying to balance the positive and negative energies found in life. The O in the Pol Theory represents this natural balance. The positive and negative represent doing good and doing bad. Karmas produced from the natural balance occurred between the conflict between both energies. In a magnetic field, the positive or negative will be attracted to itself and join together. When you release a positive vibe or action, it will attract another positive vibe or action due to this magnetic field between the same energy. The same would apply for releasing a negative vibe or action. Once the negative energy is released, it will attract another negative energy, thus creating karma. In some tribal religions, the sun is seen as a god. I believe that the sun is our closest thing to a god, as it can influence our emotions, which would influence our decisions, which could possibly lead us to fate. In Pol Theory, the reaction between positive and negative energy from the sun creates a circular movement of stages in life. It is this ever-repeating reaction that helped me realize that we may be able to predict future events from past and present signs.